A workflow is a group of statuses you can customize and apply to items in a mailbox or project. It's a really simple concept, but it's pretty powerful. For instance, you might have a workflow for how you log and track bugs with your technical team. You could also have one for managing questions from your company support email. Or you can make a workflow for hiring at your company, from resume to interview to offer. So let's see how it works. On the workflow section, you simply hit the New Workflow button to get started. But before I do that, notice there are a few workflows that are already built into DoneDone. You can use these right away on a project or mailbox. But this video is about creating workflows, so let's do it. Let's create our own task tracking workflow. I'll give it a name and a quick description. Next, I'll choose whether I can use it for projects or mailboxes. Since this is about tracking internal tasks, I'll make it a workflow for projects. On the next step, I list all the statuses I want in this workflow. So I'll start with an open status when a task is created. When someone begins working on it, they can move the task to in progress. When they're done and they want someone else to check their work, they'll mark it as ready for review. Then the reviewer can decide to reject it, but hopefully they'll approve it. Now I can easily reorder these statuses like so. The ordering just determines how they'll appear in the list of statuses you can choose from on the task. Once I'm happy with the statuses, I can configure each one in greater detail. So let's take you through the open status. First, I'll give the status a quick summary. Next, I'll choose a color for the status. You can do it however you want, but I recommend picking a color that might match the mood of the status. So the rejected status might use that daunting red color, but for open, I'll just make it this neutral green. Now, down here, I'll choose the statuses that any open task can be updated to. In other words, when a task is marked open, what statuses can this task be moved to? In this simple workflow, I'll let members of my team move an open task to in progress only. Finally, you can choose whether a status is active or inactive. By marking a status inactive, they only appear on the inactive or everything filters within this project's task list. They're also removed from the calendar section if they happen to have a due date on them. I'm going to make the open status an active status. Then I'll save it and I can move on to configuring the next one. I'll speed through these other ones as I'm adding their appropriate summaries, colors, and so forth. But I do want to show you a couple of things. For instance, in this ready for review status, it makes sense to let the reviewer change the task to either rejected or approved, so I'll choose both. Finally, when I get to the approved status, I'll mark it as inactive. Approved means the task is complete, so I don't want approved tasks appearing on people's active task lists or on the calendar deadlines. Now, when I'm done configuring statuses, I can go back to the overview section and publish it. DoneDone will offer you a few suggestions to consider if it sees anything strange about your workflow. In this case, it noticed I didn't check off any statuses that an approved task can move to, and it recommends I do so. But in this case, I'm okay with it, so I'll just publish it. I now see it marked published on the workflow's listing page. It's now ready to use on any project. By the way, once you've published a workflow, you can still configure the statuses, reorder them, and add new ones. Of course, any adjustments you make will immediately apply to any of the mailboxes or projects attached to them. So that's the quick walkthrough of workflows. If you have any other questions, visit our Help Center.